Meaningful metrics on Off the Ball.
In partnership with Whoop, the personalised digital fitness and health coach that helps you unlock your inner potential. See whoop.com for more.
Yeah, and every week we will be looking at the meaningful metrics and how they pertain to the week's action or what's to come across the weekend. Mick McCarthy joins us in studio to nudge us in that direction and towards this friendly with Belgium on Saturday. And what it does bring to mind, I guess, is given that Belgium are world number one, it's that our record as the Republic of Ireland against teams that are in that upper echelon of the FIFA World Rankings, not particularly kind. The last while?
No, the last while, you're right. But the World Rankings came out in 1993. Well, I think December 92 actually.
We were always in like the top 10 or 13 when they first came out, and it was a great thing. Now we dread them. Back in the day.
I know, yeah. God, are we? I always like, you know, when you go onto like the FIFA website and it's like there's 50 on the page. I always want to be in that first page.
Don't make me scroll. Don't make me click next. Please.
But we were 6th the first time it came out. You know, obviously Belgium are like, regardless of what team they're bringing, technically in the FIFA rankings. So it's a good chance for Ireland in the rankings. Actually, not that necessarily matters all that much, but you know, we're playing against the Belgian second team as we know. But Ireland have played the world number one on 5 occasions before now. But I also looked in, because I just hate myself, I went through every Ireland match since December 1992 all the way up to now, corresponded it with the world rankings at the time, and looked at every time we've played a top 5 team.
Mick, that's more work than anybody's ever done on anything on this show ever.
It's more work than I've done on the rest of the show this week. It has to be, as Ronan outside will know, because I've left him landed in it. But yeah, no, look, it didn't take all that long. But I don't know. Basically, in those, whatever it is, 30 odd years, we've played 27 times against teams in the top 5. We have won just 5 of them, but that's not too bad if you think about it.
That's,
you know,
25, 5,
they weren't all friendlies, which we'll get to in a second as well. We've drawn 10.
That's decent.
You know, so that's 15 unbeaten out of 27. You know,
a draw is the national result as well.
Exactly.
National dish, national flag, national result, a draw.
You won't be surprised a few of these were 1-1.
Get away.
Yeah. And we've lost 12, right? But we lost 7 of them in a row at one point over a few year period where things weren't great.
Let me guess, Trapattoni era?
Trapattoni. Yeah, exactly. I think it was it all the Trapattoni era? There might have been a bit of Staunton in there, and there might have been a bit of O'Neill in there. There was actually a Noel King game in there, actually, because a 3-0 defeat to Germany in the end of the second trial. So it included the 4-0 Euro 2012 game against Spain, as you can imagine, and it included the 6-1 and 3-0 to Germany in the following World Cup campaign. So, you know, good and bad, right? So I want to go through the games again, the big wins first, right? Or the wins, the 5 wins, right? So it was the very first one was a win against world number 1 Germany, 1994 in Hanover. What else do you remember about that?
It was a Sunday afternoon. It was an early evening Sunday kickoff, and I can remember that because my ma was making salad, and salad would only be brought out on a Sunday in the summer. That would never ever happen in the McCormick household during a week, during a weekday, or during And it was a lovely day here at home, and it was grey as be damned over in Hanover. So the two things didn't correlate. But it more than anything else, it set us up for the false hope of USA '94, whereby we came off the result in Tilburg against the Dutch and came into this game against what was, we would subsequently learn, a really underwhelming Germany team.
I know, who went out to Bulgaria in the tournament, but at the time they were world number 1. Gary Kelly scored, I don't know if it was his only goal for Ireland, but it was certainly his first goal.
You'd have fingers to spare on one hand if you'd gone through them, for sure.
And Tony Cascarino scored. So that was, and as you said, we'd just beaten the Dutch. Everybody was up, happy as Larry. The Dutch weren't in the world top 5 at the time, so I didn't include them. The next one,
another reverse, by the way, that the Dutch weren't in the top 5 in the World Cup. Anyway.
Yeah, well, they probably were afterwards, after what they did to us in the second round. But the next time was all the way forward to 1998, the first Euro 2000 qualifier after the 1998 World Cup, where Croatia had finished 3rd.
This is another great day.
Oh, great day, and really memorable, actually. It was that, you know, they went to Lansdowne Road, we beat them 2-0, we stuffed them, I would say, you know, first half goals. Roy Keane, I actually didn't write that. Dennis Irwin a penalty, I think. But
Irwin definitely got a penalty.
Yeah.
That set the wheels in motion for subsequent qualifying campaigns where each and every one that came out after a tournament that we were beginning, we'd look at getting the big team first because they might have a good World Cup and they might have a good European Championships and we can catch them cold. And I think the genesis of that was born that day against Croatia, whereby they're lording it coming off a third place finish in France.
You're dead right. Mick McCarthy got so much credit for the fixture negotiation that time. It was the first time I'd ever heard that.
Catch him early.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's a memorable one. Unfortunately, the next two aren't too memorable. We beat the world number 3 Czech Republic 3-2 in 2000.
Okay.
I don't remember this. It was at Lansdowne Road. Jan Koller got 2 goals for the Czechs, but then again, he always scored against us.
Was that like a friendly just before the Euros for them that we weren't at?
Yeah, we certainly weren't at the Euros anyway. So Ian Hart scored. Robbie Keane got a late winner. We also beat, in Brian Kerr's amazing run of friendly wins that kept us up the world rankings ourselves, and kept his record clean. We beat the Netherlands in Amsterdam 1-0 in 2004. They were in the world top 5 at the time. Robbie Keane scored in that goal as well, in that game as well. I don't have a huge memory of it, but a win in Amsterdam should be pretty memorable.
Was that the game wherein we were wearing that Ireland jersey that they couldn't wear too much because it made people itch a lot? It was the one it was semi-furry.
The towely one.
Yes.
We definitely wore that when we played them in Rotterdam in the 2-2. Yeah. So I don't know whether we were in
that thing was.
No, this was in 2004, so this was after.
I have another story about that game.
Okay.
I don't know if I can share this one on air, but
well, you're going to anyway.
I was working for an organisation subsequently who had sent somebody to that match in 2004 for the friendly, and they went missing. They were there to cover it, and they didn't cover it in the end. They were basically taking in the delights of Amsterdam as they were laid in front of them for that weekend. But anyway, I
have a few names in my head, and I'll confirm them with you later as to which one it is.
Yeah.
And then the other win, you might have heard of this game. Ireland won, Germany 0, the Aviva Stadium, 2015, the game that sent us to the playoff, that sent us to Euro 2016. The biggest roar I can ever remember being a part of. Actually, the only game on this list that I was at myself. And I
was in the office that night, Mick. Good for you. Well done. Yeah. We all went out after. That was a big night. That seemed like a real big night of celebration because there's a bunch of us here went down for points after that because we'd beaten Germany. It wasn't it's a Wednesday night or Thursday night, whatever it was. It was, God, lads, we've beaten Germany. This is brilliant.
We have to go for drinks.
And celebrate this. Yeah.
I don't know why I wasn't in the office. I was working here back then, back in my first.
I'll tell you why, Mick. You got a freebie.
I probably did, yeah. No, I didn't. I paid for the ticket, but I got it offered it by a friend of mine. Nothing to do with the media. Okay, just a couple of famous draws.
Okay.
2005 in Paris, 0-0.
Yeah.
Kevin Kilbane missed a sitter.
He did.
I don't like to remind him of it if you're listening, Kevin, but you did miss a sitter that time. But that was Brian Kerr's moment. We should have qualified for that tournament. Yeah. So many things went wrong, including that game. And then Trapp's probably one of his greatest qualifying moments, 2012 qualifiers, or 2010 qualifiers, sorry, where we drew with Italy both times. The famous 1-1 in Barry where Robbie Keane / Noel Hunt, it was definitely Robbie Keane, by the way, there's clear evidence, but Noel Hunt still claims it.
It's our Zapruder film.
Yeah, exactly. Got the equaliser, and then the 2-2 draw in Croke Park with Glenn Whelan.
Magnificent atmosphere. And that should have been a victory. It almost seems like that was 2 points dropped, which is an incredible thing to say up against what was an immense Italy team at the time. We have played a couple of top 5 teams at tournaments as well. As you mentioned,
everyone remembers Spain.
Yeah.
But what was the other one? It's a very big surprise, isn't it?
I'm looking at the list here and I'm like, how is that possible? But then again, if we were a top 10 side 2 years prior, this team definitely probably deserved.
Yeah, but it wasn't Italy in USA 94. It wasn't Italy in 2012 or 2016 or all the
Mexico,
other great teams that
Dutch,
we played.
no.
It wasn't Mexico. It wasn't the Dutch that we played in 94. It wasn't Croatia in 2012. Anything like that. Now, it wasn't France in 2016 even,
no.
right? But it was Norway in 1994. The soft touch of the group, as we thought. 0-0 draw with them. Jack Charlton was in the stands. Nothing really happened.
Nothing happened at all in that game.
And we went through to the next round.
Nothing. The most to come out of that game was Jason McAteer's story about the person in the stand,
which wasn't true,
which 100% didn't happen. So even Jason McAteer was forced into a position as somebody who was involved in that game to make up something that didn't happen about it because it was so uneventful.
Absolutely.
But there we go.
So Belgium is why I started talking about this, right? We're playing the world number 1 at the weekend. We've played the world number 1 on these times. We beat Germany, already mentioned that. We drew 0-0 in 2004 with Brazil. That was a friendly.
We went through that team that played that night as well recently, didn't we, on the show?
Yeah.
They were brilliant.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah.
Great night. 2012 against Spain, that was 4-0. We know what happened there. 2013 game against Spain in June that I don't remember.
In New York, I did a quick Google on this. The first image that comes up when you Google this game, or a report on it, is Gerard Piqué trying to win the ball against Connor Salmon.
The Salmon of College. What a man. Okay, so that was a 2-0 defeat. So we lost twice to Spain, we drew with Brazil, we beat Germany, and then we drew with Germany in Gelsenkirchen, John O'Shea. Yeah. And that was a great night. That obviously they were number 2 by the time they came to Dublin. Sure. But when we played them in Gelsenkirchen, they were number 1. I don't know what to take out of this other than we should play Germany when they're world number 1 more often, because we seem to have a pretty good record against them. Belgium, I think, are going to give us a really good chance to get a second W on this board on Saturday. Well, they have got nobody with over 50 caps in the squad, so Ireland, as we're about to talk about, are maybe not in great shape.
Still got the likes of Yuri Tielemans and Jeremy Doc. Well, not Jeremy Doc, who's not going to be playing, but Batshuayi, Benteke, strikers that we'd give her. Who's way out now?
I've had him in my fantasy team every year.
He's always let you down. Meaningful Metrics on OTB Sports in partnership with Whoop, the personalised digital fitness and health coach that helps you unlock your inner potential. See whoop.com for more. Mick, as regards the options that Stephen Kenny has available to him to try and get that W against the top 5 side in the world, the Premier League ones, tend to be sparse. And that's been the trend over the last while.
It has been, and it's been heading that way. But actually, you look at this season so far is really worrying, because it's been gradually fading in terms of our Premier League players and Premier League players who are playing regularly, more importantly. And it's a sharp drop this year. Now, it's a sharp drop because the 5 top appearance makers in the Premier League that were Irish last season were all relegated. They played for Sheffield United and West Brom. None of them moved on. It was McGoldrick, Egan, Stevens, Callum Robinson, Darragh O'Shea. So none of them are in the Premier League anymore. But looking at it so far this season, and I'm going to compare it to some other years to just kind of give you a flavour of it, 13 Irish players have appeared in the Premier League this season. 13. And now we're not at the end of the year. You do expect a couple of guys will get a run out here or there, but they'll get 1 or 2 games.
Yeah.
So I also looked at the kind of percentages of games that players have played. So Seamus Coleman has played in 81% of Everton's games.
Okay.
Everton are in crisis, but Seamus Coleman is still there as part of them. We've had Shane Duffy's played in 62% of Brighton's games. Adam Eade has played in 59% of Norwich's. An awful lot of them are off the bench, and Adam Eade is injured and out for the season. And then after that, you're down to 45% with Kieran Clark and Matt Doherty, who thankfully is the informed player and will get that above 50 by the end of the season, you would think. But only 3 players have played 50% of games. You would think by the end of the season that will remain 3 and that Ida will drop out and Doherty will come into it, okay? Just remember that figure. Last season, 21 players played in the Premier League, as opposed to the 13 so far this year, but 9 of them over 50% of the games. You go back 10 years, 2011-12 season, 35 players, Irish players, played in the Premier League that season.
I was about to ask, maybe it's not that big of a drop, but Jesus, that's huge.
35 to 13. Say maybe it ends up being 15 by the end of the season. Just as a reminder of what Stephen Kenny actually has to pick from and to work from, and how much things have changed for Irish players in England. 21, Richie, of that 35 played in over 50% of the games.
Wow.
3 played in, 21 of them, and then 3 further played 18. Like 19 will get them to 50%, so you're talking like 21, 24 players who were seriously involved in their team. That again is 3 this season, right? So we're talking, and the percentages, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is, so not great. You go back another 10 years to 01-02, 28 players in the league, 15 of them played over 50%. Listen to the amount of these are the players that played in every game that season. Steve Finnan, Shay Given, Matt Holland, Dean Kiley, Niall Quinn played in all 38 games. We had players that were 2 to 4 in the league. Maybe it was mid-table.
But mid-table in the Premier League is not nothing.
Also Roy Keane was still playing that time, and Robbie Keane was, and I think Dennis Irwin was even still maybe knocking around. Maybe it was a year or 2 after him. Go back to the first season of the Premier League. It's not quite the 30 years of 29, unfortunately, but for my metrics aren't as perfect as I'd like them to be. 27 players played that year, 17 of them over 50%. So it's funny, you always think of it as a decline over many years, but it's actually been steady for about
so long,
20 years odd or whatever, and then it's in the last 10 years when the decline has happened. But even that was levelling out a bit for the last 3 or 4 years, and now a huge drop again this season.
But it's going to be grand because we're going to have top flight players in other countries. Josh Cullen has started the trend with Anderlecht.
You're right there.
And we're going to have Festi and James Abankwah over in Udinese from next season, so all's not lost.
But once that continues on, I think I'd be more than happy to cast aside these Premier League stats as a worry. But at the moment, it is a worry, unfortunately, because in terms of first team, we're probably only looking at Josh Cullen, really.
Talking about declines and departures, Anthony Barry is obviously the key. Who would have thought that a third string coach would be the focus of attention going into an international match? But here we are. It's turned out that way, given the impact that he had during that 12 months alone that he was there with Ireland, and now he's headed off, as he says, taking a no-brainer job at Belgium. I think we'd all agree that, going to work at a World Cup and with the players that they have at their disposal, it would be a no-brainer.
Yeah, but sitting on the opposite bench this weekend is it's a strange one. But I just had a quick look at Stephen Kenny's record pre-Anthony Barry and post-Anthony Barry. So it doesn't look great, but there are obviously other factors at play. These are specifically the metrics, the stats for this question. You have to obviously say there's more to it than that, in that teams were betting in. There was a lot of factors that went into Ireland's improvement. But Anthony Barry was certainly one of them, and I think it's worth illustrating this, right? So he was appointed on the 26th of February 2021. Stephen Kenny had played 8 games as manager up until that point. Damien Duff was obviously in that role. They'd won none of them. They lost 5. They drew 3, which included penalty shootout defeat to Slovakia. They scored 1 goal, which was in the first game, a last-second equaliser with Shane Duffy against Bulgaria. Then didn't score for 6 games in a row, and conceded 7 in that time, which isn't too bad actually. Obviously, that's a win rate of 0%. Since then, Anthony Barry came in. They've played 12 games. They've won 4 of them. They've drawn 5. They've lost just 1. They've scored 20.
Wow.
And conceded 9 in that 12 games. So defensive record about similar, a little bit better. They've gone from scoring 1 in 8 to scoring 20 in 5. Now, Nations League versus international friendly season, you have to remember that as well. We had some easy teams in the group as well that you wouldn't have in the Nations League. So there are mitigating factors there, serious mitigating factors.
But still, to not concede a goal in 400, I think it totalled up recently, 430 minutes or somewhere thereabouts. Yeah. That's really good. A
win percentage that went from 0 to 33% is obviously a big improvement. Here's a bigger one though. Loss percentage gone from 62.5% to 25% in that time. Now, again, the mitigating factors are important here, because we had the likes of friendlies against Andorra for some reason, and Qatar, and we had Azerbaijan, and we had Luxembourg, even though the defeat to Luxembourg was Anthony Barry's first 2 games were also defeats as well. So again, that might, the improvement was there, but the improvement did have something to do with the coach as well. So the first 2 defeats were the Serbia game and then the infamous Luxembourg game, and everything is picked up from there. Hopefully that continues, and Anthony Barry is sitting in the Belgian dugout thinking, my work here is done. But there's a fear.
I just want to see John Eustace run along the sideline on Saturday night and give it a proper fist bump into his face.
What are you made of, Johnny?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Mick, thank you for that. And thanks to Whoop, we have an amazing prize to give away this week. For your chance to win the all-new Whoop 4.0, including a 12-month membership, just check out our competition on Twitter and tell us who the mystery Whoop ambassador is. Mick, thank you very much.
Thanks, Richie.
Meaningful metrics on Off the Ball.
In partnership with Whoop, the personalised digital fitness and health coach that helps you unlock your inner potential. See whoop.com for more.